there's an attachment to your paycheck to activity.
For sure.
So if there is no activity, what are you doing?
We are always going to be in need of rest and Sabbath, though. Like we cannot pour out of an empty bucket.
Summertime was a time to kind of reset for myself.
Hey, welcome to the Rethinking Youth Ministry Podcast. My name is Shane. We are really excited to have what I think is an important and timely conversation today. I am joined by three incredible human beings who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves. To my left, your right, if you're watching on YouTube, is the one and only.
Oh, sorry.
I'm still setting you up. One and only Reverend.
Oh,
What else was I going to say? Reverend.
that can be enough.
That's it. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. My name is Candace Wynn, and I have the privilege of being an Orange student specialist here at Orange. And what that pretty much means is anytime you purchase our curriculum, you're automatically assigned an Orange specialist. And we're just like a ministry coaching consultant that comes with your curriculum license. So my conversations consist of just lots of conversations on Zoom with youth pastors, wherever they might be.
It's awesome. That's what I was going to say, Reverend Specialist, and I messed it up. I blanked. I'm so sorry. Next to you is the illustrious
Stuart Hall, Director of Orange Student Strategies, and I'm very fortunate. These people are my teammates. Incredibly fortunate to be a part of this team.
Yeah, and then joining us all the way from, I was going to say down under, but I guess it's not. It's above us. Our resident Michigander.
Yeah.
Go ahead, introduce
Shanna Craig. Hey.
Shanna Craig. Shanna, what do you do
I
here?
know you're going to say anything.
What do you do here?
So I know, great question. I get the privilege and honor of being the small group experience director for XP3, and I'm pretty new to that role, but so far I absolutely love working alongside of each and every one of these people. And I am currently up in Detroit, but I will be moving down to Georgia very soon. So.
Down under, as they say. Nobody says that.
Down under.
And all of our
Shane
Australian
says.
listeners are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the last episode we're ever listening to. No, that's really great. We have three great people and three people who have all been practitioners in youth ministry. Some, Shanna, more recently than others, Stuart. But we have all been involved in this for a while. And summer, I don't know about you all, but summer has always been a puzzle in my experience. Have you all felt that way? Like as you've led, and I know what's interesting too, is that we're all in different contexts. Like we've led in vastly different churches in different areas of the country. Let's just talk about summer and maybe what some of the challenges, but also maybe some of the opportunities that are there for youth ministry. What do y'all think?
So when we first started talking about this episode, it brought me back to when so I've been at Orange since 2019. The common consensus was that summertime youth pastors weren't in their office. They were super, super busy because there was camps and all kind of different events happening, and things were just wild for youth pastors. And that hadn't really been my experience. And for me, summertime was a time to kind of reset for myself. Because it's ministry is go, go, go. And while families have been going, and then now gone, it was an opportunity to kind of just rest. But I've also served at a lot of different types of churches. So when I was within certain more, urban populations, like serving in Miami, there were some people who couldn't necessarily afford to travel a lot for the summer or couldn't really travel at all. And you're in Miami, so the beach is right there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So the things that we did for them look different than when I was serving in Atlanta at a more affluent church where parents were planning their kids' summer at the top of the school year, you know? So I've had an opportunity to experience a lot of different angles of it, and it's just all look different. And I feel like what's worked best was really just contextual.
That's good. Miami summer ministry.
I know.
Goodness sake, you just dropped that like nothing, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I think everybody
But
listening
Miami
is like,
always
wait,
hot,
how do I get that
always
job?
summer
Yeah,
ministry.
That's true. That's amazing. Okay, so it's different based on context. Stuart, as you've led in local church youth ministries, but also as you've traveled and seen a lot of summer context, speaking, what do you see that works and maybe doesn't work?
Probably to Candace's point, one thing that I thought of knowing we were going to talk about this, is I thought about the youth leader who really doesn't have a lot of choice as it relates to programming during the summer, because there's an expectation from senior leadership. Students are out of school.
Oh yeah.
And you feel the intense pressure from the top down to fill a summer schedule.
Yeah.
But there's also another part of that I think gets lost on us from like Candace, the different varying experiences I've had. One thing to consider, for example, is you have students in your ministry who going to school means they have 2 guaranteed meals a day. And now they're no longer going to school.
Yep.
You have moms and dads who can't stay home with their children. So that means they are at home by themselves.
Wow.
So you have youth leaders who are feeling this pressure to program, but you also have students who don't have nearly as much freedom as you think they do.
For sure.
And then there's the opposite extreme of the student who has their entire summer is jam-packed already, and church isn't the first priority. So to be strategic is an interesting proposition when there is so much to the contextualization of the issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. Shanna, how did you all approach that? I know, you've been on our team for what, a handful of months now.
We think she's on our team.
Just coming right out of the local church context. Like how would you all approach summer, maybe even last summer at your local church?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I came from a church, and when I was doing kind of like my residency, when I was wrapping up my time in college, where summer was the time to recharge. And so when I took on the full-time job, becoming a director at a student ministry in the Detroit area, I was so excited to be like, oh, I have time to kind of gather myself after graduating and prepare for what is ahead. And I could not have been more wrong. It was the busiest time of the year for us. It was event after like night of programming, after church-wide picnic event, to then student-focused night away event for our upcoming 6th graders, to then a night away event for our upcoming freshmen in high school, to then a week-long service week for all of our middle schoolers and high schoolers, while still doing weekly summer programming. And so it was truly like the most chaotic time of the year. And so I remember through my 6 years in that space, it was kind of like a rotation from like getting excited for just the fun of summer after the school year was coming to an end. But then as soon as I was like probably a month into the summer programming, just like, man, I can't wait for the school year to start back up. I need a rest. I need a break. And so it was a ton of fun, but like there was never a set schedule for us. And so it was kind of always like living in that desire to have consistency and to have regular office hours, and to not be running off to a grad party for students while also planning for whatever 3 events we had going on that week. It was just, it was so busy.
Yeah. That it's interesting. That was kind of my arc when it came to summers as a youth pastor. I remember early on, it was like there's an open calendar and we've got to create stuff for them to do, which I'm not really even sure where that philosophy comes from. I don't know if it's like just trying to keep up. This is going to be very direct. It's just trying to keep up the appearance of like, well, I'm a youth pastor and I'm earning my paycheck, or if I'm a volunteer, I'm earning the right to continue to get to do this. And it felt like this pressure of like, well, if they're free, like we should be doing something. Why not have them at the church? Which kind of goes back to that old school mindset we've talked about a lot on this podcast of like everything is building and church centered, that it's like, well, just open the youth space and let them come hang out. And then, I think as the years went on, I recognized like this is exhausting when we're already running all year long. We had 2 camps that we were running, middle school and high school camps. And then we're trying to fit in Bible studies and water nights and this and that. And it's like, we were almost creating this rat race for ourselves. I don't even know that anybody was asking for it. Like you may have had the one parent, who's like hits you up at the end of May, like, what are you going to do for, the students this summer? And you want to have an answer for them. But like for everybody else, they may be going, I've got I've got plenty going on, or we've got our own family plans or whatever else. And in the middle of all of that, it was like trying to prioritize my own family.
Right.
Like that's a time for us to maybe go somewhere or take a week off or whatever else that looks like. So, summer was always interesting. And I think for me personally, where I landed through the years is I don't want to force it just because there's free time on the calendar. Yeah. And I don't know, why do you think that's such a tension? Maybe that's just a tension for me, but I saw y'all kind of nodding along as I was saying that. So like, where does that come from as a youth pastor?
I mean, we can make some assumptions.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that's scientific about what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
But I do think parents routinely have treated faith communities the way they do the education system. And we drop off our kids at drop off our kids at school to educate them. Yep. You drop off your kids at church to spiritualize them.
Yeah, wow.
And now you have free time.
Yeah.
But if I may slide this across the table, students are free. Students deserve Sabbath and rest too.
Yeah, that's good. True. Yeah, that's really good. But way too often the church has been seen as another program that parents can use. So I think it's some of that. I do think, to your point earlier, there's an attachment to your paycheck to activity. Yeah, for sure.
So if there is no activity, what are you doing?
Yep.
And so I think youth leaders kind of buy into that a bit.
Yeah.
And then there's also a thing too, like, why are you suddenly strategic in the summer? Have you, like, I feel this, like, have you been strategic the rest of the year?
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
I'm so glad you said
all
that.
of a sudden, do we become strategic in the summer?
Yeah.
I think there's some of that too.
Yeah.
But everything we're talking about depends, it's so contextualized.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is still the potential to capitalize on the change of pace in the summer to enhance relational connectivity within your ministry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I still think that's a huge piece of it that I feel like is one of those, okay, that's what drives this. Now, whether people are able to articulate it that way or not, I don't know if they articulate it that way. Some of it could be senior leadership, seeing the teenagers or having had teenagers in their own house. And they're like, this child is doing nothing because I don't have them at camp, or because teenagers aren't typically going to camp. Like, you know, maybe I go overnight camp, but not like day camp.
Yeah,
like,
for
you
sure.
know, when you're younger. Yeah. So it could be just some of the lived experience of senior leadership and seeing the need and just knowing that, hey, their family isn't the only one going through this.
Yeah.
But I think that there is still a great potential to enhance relational connectivity.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'll just keep it at that for right
Well,
now.
like you were saying earlier, though, is a lot of that have to do with your context? Because I'm like, if you're in a context where maybe, you know, summer vacations or summer activities aren't necessarily a part of the culture, like it feels like you have a huge opportunity to do that. But I know that there are some, like I felt in Arizona as a youth pastor, like it's 150 degrees.
Right.
Everybody's trying to go somewhere other than that. And it was like, even just planning, when are we going to do camp? It was like, there's going to be 20 students out at this thing or whatever. It was like, there was never a great time for everyone in the summer, but that was the context that I was in.
Yeah.
So like, do you think it's
that.
contextual? Or?
I do think it's contextual. And I know one of the challenges for us with trying to pack a summer is that things cost.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, if you're having a summer that's full of stuff, somebody's paying for that.
Yep.
You know, so it isn't like a youth pastor who doesn't necessarily have lots of programming over the summer isn't caring.
Yep.
It's just some things can be expensive.
Yep.
You talk about your water days. I mean, you know, that though they're great. You know, you can get people that there's ways that you can do things that aren't as, you know, don't have as high of a bill. Yep. But I still think that there are things that cost, and the more that you can give opportunities to people in the families that don't necessarily have the means to pay for it themselves.
Yeah, that's good.
Where you could just, hey, don't let cost be a barrier.
Yeah.
Whether it be through you being more entrepreneurial and figuring out different alternate means of funding, or whether it be through getting creative with the team to figure out, hey, what are some free events that we can do. You know, I used to have kids it was summertime when I was in Miami, because also we were more of a community oriented church. People live within a certain radius of the church. There was nothing for a teenager to walk to the church.
Yep.
Which is, you know, you're not doing anything. Hey, church, my office door is open. Come here whenever.
Yeah.
So it would be nothing for a teenager to come up in the middle of the day in the summertime, hang out for a few hours. I put them to work cleaning out a closet, you know, cutting some papers or something, doing something like that. You know, just in the way that it for me that it built relationships with them and gave them something to do.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. That's good. And that also brings up something I want to ask Shanna about this. You're talking about the cost. Okay. So that is like a real tension point in my mind when it comes to summer strategy. This is one of the things that never made sense to me in the context that I led. It was like, we would shell out a significant amount of budget for summer events or the water nights or this or that. And I guess at the risk of this sounding, just about money, it felt like the ROI, the return on investment, was really, really low. So it's like we're spending a good chunk of our budget on these summer things, and like half of these students are never going to show up again. That's again when I was measuring it like success that way. Yeah. So I don't know, Shanna, is that something that you've seen, experienced? What would you say to even that idea that it's gonna take some time, energy, and resources to do this? Is it worth it in the long run from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest tensions that I have with summer ministry is the desire to put on a lot of great events that students will want to come to, and then the reality of everything that we've talked about, like them having training for different sports that they're a part of, marching band camp, like that's a huge thing. All of our like theater kids going away to some sort of like drama camp for a couple of weeks, plus the family vacations on top of it. And so it was always a tension of like, when do we plan our more expensive events? And then when do we plan kind of like our plug and play events, like in case of rain? Like in Michigan, it is the most beautiful time of the year in the summer, but it's also like wildly unpredictable. So you could have like this beautiful sunny 80-degree day that's perfect for hanging out outside, but then like all of a sudden you have a 30-minute absolutely crazy torrential rainstorm that can blow through, so all of your outdoor plans just got blown out the window. And so I think for us, like what we had to start thinking through was like, what are the events that we want to put the most of our summer budget into, and what makes it worth it, and why do our kids love it, and will they invite friends to it? And then what are the things that we want to create a space where students can still come and have fun and feel safe for just the kids that don't have a lot going on, whether it's because like their parents are working, they don't have a summer vacation plan, they don't have a way to kind of get around, they're not living near their friends. And so it's kind of just a place to come and hang out, or whether it's like coming to just like help us set up a lot of what Candace said. I would invite students to come and help set up. Like for sure. We did an extreme bingo night, and that was like one of our favorite kind of plug and play whenever we saw like a big rainstorm coming in, because we could do it inside. And so students would come and like put all of the bingo cards underneath chairs, like pass out all of the pens, things like that. But they're also spending intentional time. Yeah, so that made it feel worth it on those days. But budget is a huge thing. Like if you don't have a big budget, it's hard to like plan big things that you feel like your kids will want to come to and invite friends to, that hopefully then will show up again during the school year. Yeah, that's good. That unpredictable thing is because they're in a different hemisphere down under. You know what I mean? Up north. Right? Anyways, no, that's really good. You all process that like a very deep thought, which I really appreciate you doing that for me. No, that's really good. And it does make me want to ask this question. How then do you capitalize on summer in youth ministry? Like I hear some of what you're saying, Candace, as potential opportunity. I think we have some lived and learned experience as to maybe like some things that work and don't work. What should you be thinking as a youth pastor going into the summer? Building relational equity will always build relational momentum. Oh, that's good. Yeah. And I think with this, also to the contextual piece one more time, I also think we should consider that a middle school student and a high school student are also different. 100%. So your middle school students probably have a little more free time than a high schooler does. Yeah, potentially. Which means if you're leading a high school small group, for example, I would really challenge my high school leaders to go to where students are. Yeah, that's good. I think even our ministries can, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but
our ministries can actually get involved with what's happening at schools, what's happening with camps, to be present with students so that we can build relational equity with students. That to me is the most natural thing. If there is free time, I would hope and pray my leaders would build relational equity with the free time versus me thinking I have to get them on the blueprint of our campus and provide a program that's going to wow them. I can always, hey, I know you're done with camp. Can I take you to Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
And let's go hang out.
Yeah, that's
Something
good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Candace, what do you think?
I think people should prioritize themselves.
Ooh. Okay, say more.
I think there has been, I mean, I don't know what y'all experience has been, but I think youth pastors should prioritize themselves.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what any of your experience has been, but I know within some churches, pastors take the month of August off and they take a sabbatical.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's from where I've been, that's not uncommon.
Wow.
And I think that if you have an opportunity to really lean into yourself, take care of yourself, because ministry is go, go, go.
Yeah.
And summertime is a different pace for everybody. Everybody wants a different pace in the summertime. I mean, not everyone. Some people are sleeping in a bit later in the summertime. Some people are staying up a little bit later.
Yeah.
People are looking at just like the opportunities to just hang out and be outside much differently. And so I think that if you have the opportunity to change the pace on the way that you care for yourself over the summertime, then that might give you a different kind of way that you lean in the rest of the year.
Oh, that's
because ministry is just draining, you know, and everybody needs
good.
something to look forward to. Everybody within the education system, I don't know one person within the education system who does not look forward to summer break.
Yeah, for sure.
And if they don't, they're lying.
Yep.
Even the principal, you know, everybody's looking forward to summer break, you know, and so while everyone is changing the pace, I just wonder what it might look like to, after you get over the hump of graduation, because that's huge, get over the hump of graduation. And maybe it's within those, I mean, some people might be doing VBS for older, you know, ones, whatever.
Right.
But maybe there's a way there's a rhythm that you can find for yourself to just take a week or maybe even two and just change your own pace. Then
That's good.
I think that gives you something to look forward to every year.
That's good. That's really good.
Oof.
Good old South Beach sabbatical. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. We're going to Miami. Benvenido a Miami, as they say. Nobody says that. I think Will Smith did a long time ago. No, that's really good. Like, I think if you can do that, gosh, that would have been, for me personally, that would have been a game changer.
Yeah.
I actually think summer, if I'm being like really real, I had like probably like a hard kind of even burnout moment years ago. And I think it actually started in the summer. Like, I can look back and go, oh, it was the load that I carried through the summer as a leader that then months later in the fall, when I kind of hit a wall, I could trace it back and go, it started there. So if I would have prioritized myself, my own health, taking that time, it would have been a game changer. So I'm really glad.
And part of that, though, is
shared that.
because we haven't mentioned the two big rocks that a lot of people fill their summer with. There are a lot of churches that think camp, they think missions trip.
Yeah, for sure.
And, so,
You do this
and
in the
both
summer.
of those are heavy lifts for
sure
youth
are.
leaders.
Gosh. Yeah.
And take an immense amount of planning,
Yes.
manpower,
Yes.
woman power.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm glad you added us in there with that.
you're welcome.
And just energy. Like, you know, Shanna said something about drama camps earlier, and I was like, I think that was our youth camp every year. Like, there's a lot of drama. And as a youth pastor, you're the one dealing with it, right? Like, you're the one up early mornings, late nights, like trying to solve things. It was taxing. And when you have to do that, and then you come back and it's like, well, we got a Bible study that starts right away, or we've got this, you know, event. Like, that is exhausting. And nobody else will really understand that.
Can I ask a question? One of the things I would be interested in all of you guys answering is, as youth culture has fragmented, how does that impact summer? Because it used to be where it would be much easier to cluster students together. But now you have so many different groups of students who may not necessarily think that's a good idea for me. So how does that impact how you plan for summer?
Okay, so I actually want to respond to this, because this is what I was thinking when you all were talking around summer and how to capitalize on it. I think you're going to have some students who are interested in like showing up at the church or walking down and just hanging out or helping. And I'm like, that you can capitalize on. That's the emotional equity, I think, Stuart, that you were talking about, or not emotional equity, the relational equity that you were talking about. And I'm like, okay, if there are those students, like lean in, create opportunities to invest in them in a unique way, walk them through a Devo or, a Bible study or something like that. But don't feel the pressure of having to draw in every student.
Right.
Like, it's just not a responsibility you have to hold. Like, if they have other stuff going on, let them live. You know what I mean? Like, don't put that undue pressure on yourself. And I know this is impossible for everybody, but if that pressure is being put on you by somebody else, have that conversation. Yeah. Like even Stuart, what you just mentioned of, hey, teenagers today are going in a million different directions, and to try to bring everybody into one place in a time like summer where they have the freedom to go in different directions, honestly works against what we're trying to do here. So I think that's a really important thought. And for me, I'm like, don't fight it just because you're carrying either it's undue pressure or some expectations or whatever else. And I also understand that's a lot easier said than done. So that may take some self-reflection and some difficult conversations, but I think it's worth thinking about. Shanna, Candace, what do y'all think?
I'm sitting here thinking through, like, what would I do different now that I'm on the other side, and we're approaching summer, and what would be something that I would really wish that I could talk through with my team. I think that there is always going to be a desire to do more, whether it comes from your senior leadership, whether it comes from parents who are asking you, like, why can't you put on more things that my kids can go to? Like, they need this. Whether it's like that desire for you to even just feel fulfilled as a, youth director or youth pastor, feeling like you're doing something for your community that you're serving. And I think that there's always going to be that tension. I also think everything that Candace said is true of, we are always going to be in need of rest and Sabbath, though. Like we cannot pour out of an empty bucket. And just like school teachers, like we need that time where we have our own time to pour into our own families, and the life that we are also living outside of the church building. And so I think something that could be really helpful that I wish that I would have been able to do maybe differently, or at least just like have a more honest conversation with our team at large, is just like, what are the best ways that we can still serve our community in a semi-consistent schedule, because that's what summer is. It's not completely consistent because you aren't in the rhythm of school.
That's good.
But what is a semi-consistent schedule that your kids can still look forward to, that's also not going to burn your team out or yourself out or your volunteers out, is honoring the families that are still really excited and eager to partner with you and to have their kids be a part of what you're doing, but is realistic. Instead of trying to do everything, what are the most key for building that equity so that you can continue to push forward towards the school year where there is a consistent schedule? But then what are also maybe the things that is okay to let go of, and to maybe push back on, whether it's with senior leadership of like, hey, this is just not a capacity that we have. Whether it's with yourself and just being able to let go of something that you could let a volunteer lead out, that you don't necessarily have to be the one to lead out, but you can use a trusted volunteer or a trusted parent within your ministry to kind of help bear that load. And just like thinking a little bit more creatively through just the fact that summer is different. We don't have to have the same lens and perspective that we do for the school year or for anything else. We just have to view it as different, and so we can approach it as different. I think that would be the biggest thing.
That's really good. Candace, any final thoughts you'd add to this conversation?
Yeah, I think, well, with that piece that, the fragmented populations piece, I just keep thinking about the things that I don't know, you know? And I mean, I know the things that I like. I know the things that my children are interested in. But if there aren't things that I like or that my children aren't interested in, I don't really know what those rhythms and the schedules are like.
Yeah.
And so a huge part of it just requires youth leaders just becoming aware of the things that teenagers are interested
That's
in
good.
and what the rhythms around those things are.
Yeah, that's really
so
good.
that you can plan properly. Because if you know, like we're talking about, do lean heavily into programming over the summertime, then there might be a whole huge population that you miss out on the opportunity of developing that relational equity.
That's good.
Because you just are not sensitive to their schedule.
That's really good.
So, I mean, I don't know when drama camps happen. I don't know.
Yep.
I might discover one day. I don't know.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I don't know when the huge part of the time of the year when I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So, yeah.
That's good.
That's really good. Here's what I'm hearing through this conversation. I'm hearing, don't fight your context.
Yeah.
Like, be aware of your
That's
context and
right.
don't fight it, no matter what it is. Invest in relationships, whether that is 3 relationships, because those are the students who can show up and be around, or you can show up, in their spaces, or it's, 300. Make sure you're prioritizing relationships. And then third, get yourself a South Beach sabbatical if you can do it. And we want to hear your South Beach sabbatical stories. You can DM us at Orange. Actually, I don't think we do want to hear those.
Not over the summer though, because
we don't want to. Our producer Corinne said we do not want to hear those. So, but
you can't go during the summer because that's hurricane season. I mean, some people do go during the
yeah.
summer, but that's hurricane season.
You're
Just
right.
thinking about how
Again,
she was
context.
Bad time.
Know your
Know your context. Bad time for a sabbatical.
Absolutely.
One thing to think about too, with Candace's mantra and diatribe about educators taking the summer off, your volunteers need a break too.
Come on now.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all this
That's true.
planning that you're doing for the summer, someone has to pull that off.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good.
And
So-
there are a lot of faith communities around the country who decide we're not going to do small groups during the summer,
yeah.
just to give their volunteers a break. That's
Yeah.
another thing to think about.
There were
That's
some
really
churches
good.
I didn't do our weekly programming. That's like I like to call it weekly programming around here. I
Yeah.
had never called it that, so I started working here.
Church, right? You call it church?
Yeah, I guess just our youth service.
Yeah,
Youth
your
worship.
service.
We never did that during the summer at some churches because it was just the weight of lifting it. It was just too much.
Yeah,
It
I hear
was just
that.
Too much.
I hear that. No, that's really good. So give your volunteers a South Beach sabbatical while you're at it down there. You can all go together. What a memory.
And then have a hurricane party. Talk about
hurricane
relational
party.
building.
Oh my gosh.
Got some stories.
No, you can DM the stories to @Orange Students. Hey, for real though, I think this is a really helpful conversation. I'm sitting here thinking, when I was a youth pastor, I would have just wanted to hear somebody say these things and give me like the permission to rethink it or have some space to even invest in myself, or take a little bit of time to recharge. So I appreciate everything that you all said. And we hope this has been incredibly helpful for you as you've been listening as well. In fact, we really would love to hear not just your South Beach sabbatical stories, but how you're rethinking summer. You can DM us @Orange Students. We'd love to hear how you're approaching these critical but really interesting months of youth ministry. We hope this conversation has been helpful, and we cannot wait to see you on the next episode of Rethinking Youth Ministry.